What is going on, guys, and welcome to the 3rd of January episode of SmackDown Live, the first of 2017. Apologies, this review's out late. Very busy day, and didn't get a chance to watch SmackDown until about this time. So yeah, hopefully next week we'll be able to get it out later. But SmackDown's better than Raw again. It beats Raw again this week. Don't know on the rating wise. I hope so, because if it does, we can start to say that SmackDown, not just for entertainment and for quality, but, you know, factually, is the flagship show. It's the A show for WWE now. So happy it beat it in the ratings last week. And this show was just fantastic. From top to bottom, it was quality, intrigue. I'm interested. I'm into the characters. I'm into their individual stories, the stories that are going on as well. You know, it's difficult to criticize the show as a whole. You know, if you go through something individually like we're going to do, there's always going to be stuff that I'm going to be critical of, I'm sure. But ultimately, it's almost impossible to be too harsh about the mistakes that SmackDown make. Because even though they may make mistakes on a show that I might not agree with, it's got to the point where I have enough confidence in the brand and I have enough confidence in the show that they will make the right decision when it comes to it. And that's really, I think, quite interesting and quite special. Is the fact that, you know, yeah, okay, I don't agree with them doing that. But you know what? Looking back, they've made the right calls here, there and everywhere. And I'm going to say, you know, and it means that I can watch it as a fan. And I can be interested and entertained as a fan. And I don't watch it and think, oh, well, they're making him look stupid. And why are they doing it? I'm watching it and saying, oh, this is good. Or I want to see, you know what I mean? It's a different way of watching it. Whereas Raw, I'm watching it with a critical eye. SmackDown, I'm just watching it purely for entertainment purposes. And that's thanks to SmackDown and thanks to the work it's done. Let's get into the show then. The Miz started off SmackDown. Look, this segment was... Hang on, let me read that. This segment was concise, to the point, didn't outstay its welcome. It was exactly what an opening segment should be. And SmackDown keeps nailing their opening segments. Whereas Raw, on the contrary, doesn't. Raw, the segments are samey. They overstay their welcome. And they don't get you hyped for the show. This got us hyped for the future match. We saw the Marie slap Ambrose. So we saw some storyline development. And that's the difference. If you look at Raw and then you look at SmackDown, I don't want to talk about Raw too much at all, because there's no point, because it's a different show and we're going to look at it as one. You know, Raw doesn't advance the story. It's the same thing each week. It's too long. SmackDown, it's short, to the point, gets to the point, advance the story, gets you intrigued for the show. That's the blueprint for a good opening segment. SmackDown keep nailing it. Raw keep failing it. And an opening segment's so important because it sets up the tone for the show. And it set it up with intensity, with intrigue. And Marie slapping Ambrose was a fantastic touch. And then we saw in the main event, Ambrose versus Miz, and throughout the show we had Maurice and Renee Young backstage. There was an altercation between them. Maurice slapped Renee Young. We saw that intensity and that build and that intrigue and that excitement for the match later on come into play. And that's what we saw. So that was very good. We then saw Dolph Ziggler versus Baron Corbin. You guys know how much I like Baron Corbin. I really do like Baron Corbin. He reminds me of just somebody... I was going to say, no, he doesn't rhyme with them. He is just good. You know, Baron Corbin is a very good superstar. You know, a monster. He's been booked very well. He feels like he's got that aura around him. He feels like a real threat. He feels like, not like a monster they're trying to force down a threat, but a real monster, a real threat. Somebody you wouldn't want to meet in an alleyway, because you're going to get your ass whooped. You know, I think he's very good in the ring. I think he's underrated in the ring. I really do. On the mic, he is very good. If you saw some of his work in NXT, he can more than hold his own on the mic. His selling's very good. He's a very good all-rounder. I like his character. I like his, you know, the way he shouts at the fans, the way he shouts at the referees. It keeps you engaged and it keeps you into the matches. This was another great match. Ziggler's doing well as well. Ziggler's done so well since the brand split. He's in a situation now where it doesn't really, you know, this loss doesn't really affect him. And the way they done this loss was basically Ziggler got so close, hit Baron Corbin with his best move, didn't keep him down, lost his temper, lost that focus for a little split second, and bang, end of days, which is by far the best finisher on the in WWE at the moment. Bang, end of days, Baron Corbin getting the win. I'm happy Baron Corbin got the win. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dolph Ziggler after. Because what happened after the match? Well, we saw Dolph Ziggler character development happen. We saw Kalisto come out and attack Baron Corbin. As Corbin walks out, Kalisto picks Ziggler up, super kick to Kalisto. Ziggler turns heel. We then see backstage Ziggler with Apollo Crews attacking Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews saying, look, Kalisto's my friend. Why did you do that? Bang, headbutt to Kalisto. We're seeing character development. We're going to see a Dolph Ziggler that's focused, that's not caring about what other people think, and is going to be a friggin' force. Trust me, heel Dolph Ziggler is awesome. And heel Dolph Ziggler has the potential to be World Heavyweight Champion. But yeah, I thought this match was solid. I really did. I enjoyed the match. And I think, even though from a technical standpoint, it probably wasn't, a fantastic match. But just because I'm, invested in Baron Corbin and I'm invested in Dolph Ziggler and I'm invested in the show, the matches automatically become better. They automatically are elevated because of that very fact. We then saw the Becky Lynch versus La Luchador. And it looks like whoever it is, obviously, is working for Alexa Bliss. Because there was that kind of switcheroo like the Bella twins used to do. And who knows who it is. I think it's Mickie James. Be interesting to see when it's revealed. But it's a nice dynamic to the storyline. It's a nice way to keep the rivalry going. Although, and KW said it in the comments, they're never going to... reference the point that I made, that this is basically karma for Becky Lynch doing what she did to Alexa Bliss when she was the luchador. This is karma now, but they're obviously not going to mention that because she's a face, and that's very, very true. But it is, and that's why I don't feel sorry for Becky Lynch on a personal note, and I like Alexa Bliss, and I think this is good. I think it's a good way to be. It'll be interesting to see who La Luchador is. What I'm hoping is if La Luchador does... if Alexa Bliss faces Becky Lynch at any point and retains the title, then La Luchador turns on Alexa Bliss and we get Alexa Bliss versus whoever the La Luchador is, and maybe Becky Lynch still features in that match and we get Seth. I'd love to see that. It's not bad. The match wasn't great, but storyline development. And that's what matters, really. It wasn't a match about quality. It was a match about developing the story, and that it succeeded. We then saw John Cena versus AJ Styles in the contract signing. This was awesome. They both hit the nail on the head. They both hit their notes. They both said what they needed to say. They both said a lot of what we were thinking. And this is going. I loved how Corbin came out at the end. He looked like he belonged. He didn't look out of place in the ring with John Cena and AJ Styles. And he said, "I'm entering the Royal Rumble and I'm going to win it." And whoever it is, whether it's Styles or Cena, whichever one of you is champion, I'm going to take the title at WrestleMania. And I'm behind Corbin winning the Rumble. I'd love to see that. I just think it might be a little bit too soon, a couple of months too soon, which is a bit of a shame. But there was a couple of great things that Styles said to Cena, and there was a couple of great things that Cena said to Styles. Styles does have a point about Cena not deserving the championship, but Cena also has a point. He's John friggin' Cena, and just because of that, he gets the title. Now, that might piss people off, but that's just the facts. And I like the fact that John Cena now, he is in a sense a heel. Or not in the orthodox sense, but he loves the people he loves, and the people that have said Cena sucks, the people have criticised him and his integrity and his love for the business, well, he has no time for them, and that I respect. I like that from Cena. I like this intense John Cena. This is a match everybody wants to see. This is an intensity from Cena that we want to see. You can't deny Cena has passion. The Rock comment, Styles has a point. Has John Cena become what John Cena always hated? Has Cena become what John Cena promised he'd never become, and what John Cena literally hated with a passion? Some would argue he has. I'd argue not. But some great points made there. And, I just loved this segment. It was fantastic from top to bottom. And there was, a little bit of fighting at the end, but nothing too much. Styles, with a cheap shot over Cena. We'll probably see Cena versus Corbin next week. And what I want to see is a dirty finish, a finish that isn't clean. Because I don't want to... Look, I don't mind if Cena beats Corbin. I mean, that would prove that, right, Corbin, you're on a run, but you're not just quite there. He's not going to bury him if he wins. Cena isn't, because it will go long and he'll, you know, Corbin, I'm sure, will come out of it looking strong even in defeat. But I would like to see a cheap finish, just because I think that would make the fact that Corbin really is on a roll emphasised. And hell, if they let, I mean, they're not going to let Corbin beat Cena. If I'm speculating that this is the match they're doing next week. They're not going to let Corbin beat Cena clean. That's just not going to happen. But they could allow AJ Styles to interfere and Corbin to get the victory. I'd have loved Corbin to turn on Styles as well and just basically to say, yeah, I don't care who you are. And Corbin's very good on the mic, as you can see, and he's not phased. He wasn't phased by John Cena, and I like the fact that they do that. And they've always, WWE in the past, been apprehensive to do that. They've always shied away from maybe looking at a guy like Corbin who's up and coming and having him not afraid of John Cena. And that's quite a big thing, not to be afraid of the 15-time world champion. But a great segment from top to bottom. Anybody who didn't enjoy this segment, well, I don't know who you are, really. I don't know what you're doing. And if you did not catch the full segment, make sure you go back and check it out, because it was very, very good. We then saw Carmella, who's with James Ellsworth. I'm not that into this. I don't really understand where it's going. I suppose it's a way of using Carmella. They're trying to use as many women shit as they can. And NXT superstar, I can't say her name, made her debut. And it was in losing fashion to Carmella. It'll be interesting to see how Ellsworth and Carmella goes. I was always one that was like, I don't know how they're going to use Ellsworth now. And they seem to be using him with Carmella. I think Carmella's using Ellsworth to get ahead of herself and to get ahead of the game, and then she'll turn on him quite soon. I expect that to happen, and then someone will feel sorry for Ellsworth and they'll start a feud with Carmella. So that's what I expect to happen from this storyline, and that's fine if that is what's to happen. But that's the second sort of thing going on in the women's division, and this is why I say the SmackDown division is stronger than Raw, or has the potential to be. And Katie, you made a good point. It's deeper, and I agree. Deep, perhaps that's the better word to use. It's a deeper division. We then saw American Alpha versus Breeze Dango. Now, a lot of people will criticise this, I'm sure, and I haven't read Bleacher Report's grades, because what I'm going to do now, because I find that if I read the Bleacher Report grades and their analysis, I end up getting convinced by some of the stuff they say, and it becomes a bit of not just my first reaction. And not saying that I would copy their thing, but you know, when you read someone else's thoughts on the show, you think, oh yeah, that's true, and I agree, and I would just want it to be organic. So I would have thought, predicting that I've probably said, you know, this is a bad segment and that, you know, they buried Breeze Dango. I don't think that was the case. Here I think it was the case of, look, Breeze Dango are a great tag team, and what they need to do in the next few weeks is they need to bounce back, and I think that will happen. But what it shows is that American Alpha are the champions, and they're not to be messed around with, because they can demolish teams. They're intense, they were ready, and it doesn't show, and it doesn't make Breeze Dango look stupid. I think sometimes as wrestling fans, we look at stuff too black and white. Oh, they lost in so quickly, so no, it's not the case. They weren't focused, they weren't ready. American Alpha, they were intense, they were focused, and they did it, and they beat Breeze Dango. On another day, when Breeze Dango perhaps start with a little bit more focus, that's going to happen. But yeah, American Alpha getting a quick, decisive victory as champions. I like that. I don't think Breeze Dango looks stupid in defeat. I just think they look like, they got their tactics wrong this time. They've got to go back to the drawing board and they've got to improve. And I don't think that's a bad thing. We always look at, if someone loses, then, that's terrible for them. They're buried. That's not the case. And at the end of the day, if you look at it like that, WWE can never win, because somebody's always got to lose. Otherwise, everybody draws, and nobody wants to see everyone draw. So I think this is more than fine. I'm more than fine with what happened there. And then we saw the Wyatt family come on. And right at the end, just to advance another little bit, another little subplot, another little story. Randy Orton said run before Luke Harper. It's little things like that SmackDown are doing perfectly well at the moment. And next week we've got a match that I want to see. The rematch, American Alpha versus the Wyatt family for the tag team champions. And I really don't know who's going to win it. It's another one of those things. Every match on SmackDown, I have no idea who's going to win. Wyatt family could win the titles back, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. American Alpha could retain. It really is going to be a great match. The intensity's there, the story's there, and they're in good form. American Alpha, they're the champs, and can they hold on to the title? Again, I'm praising SmackDown. I know, and you're probably thinking I'm getting overexcited and I'm praising it too much. But people usually say, "Oh, you're as negative, and you never praise a show." I praise shows when they're good. Just one good show doesn't make a good show, if that makes sense. A show can be good, But overall, it doesn't really matter. You know, if it's like with Raw, they'll throw a good show once every 2 months. But but I'm still critical on that show because even though it's a good show, you know that it's only one. And the frustrating thing is Raw can produce good shows, it just doesn't produce them consistently. But when you start to get consistently good shows, if a show's average, you're not as critical for it because you say, well, you know, there's been some good shows and I care about the characters, and an average show for SmackDown will always beat an average show for Raw, because an average show for Raw is like what we get, you know. I mean, perhaps people don't understand what I mean by that, but yeah, an average show for SmackDown will always beat an average show for Raw. Which again, I know you probably think to yourself that doesn't make sense, Cameron, but because Raw's usually commonly shit and SmackDown's usually commonly good, if there's an average show for SmackDown, you say, well, you know, yeah, it was an average show tonight, but there was still that development. You see the positives easier. But when you see another average show for Raw, you look at the negatives more because, well, negatives have happened in the past and you know that's more than likely what's going to happen going forward. So that's where, I mean, Raw has the ability to change things and has the ability to improve. SmackDown's a great recipe. They've got a recipe for success here. And I'm not being funny with it, but Raw need to get their arse together, because if they want to keep beating SmackDown in the ratings, they really do need to get their arse together, because at the moment, I genuinely think SmackDown will beat Raw this week, and I think it might be the tide starting to change. And I think if Raw doesn't get their act together quickly, SmackDown will rinse them in the ratings going forward for a long, long time, and it will be almost impossible for Raw to get themselves back as the #1 show in WWE. This is insane that we're even talking about this. And I said it would happen. I said SmackDown could do this, and everybody said, oh, they'll never beat him in the ratings, even if the show's better. I said it 6 months ago. It can happen, and it has. And I don't want to say I've been proven right with SmackDown being better than Raw in ratings and Baron Corbin, but it looks like I'm right again. What can I say? Let's get on then to the next bit. Nikki Bella and Natalya face to face in the centre of the ring. I didn't mind this. I thought there was a couple of stuff that I'd have said that weren't said, but ultimately it was okay. It was decent. It was average. And again, I'm not going to look at the negatives, and that touches on what I just said there. You know, I like the fact Nikki Bella lost it at the end and she punched him. I like the fact she brought up the Hart Foundation. That would have been something that I would have brought up. The only negative really was that Natalya didn't really say anything much new. She kind of went over what she did last week. But this will be a good display, and it will be interesting to see who wins and whether they can use both these women in the better way. So not a bad segment, a solid segment, advancement in the storyline, and intensity growing in this thing. And that's the thing. That's why, honestly, I think SmackDown's better than Raw because there's so much intensity there. Everything's intense. Everything's passionate. There's insults. You know, you get 3 or 4 fantastic insults on SmackDown each week. You'll be lucky if you get 3 or 4 good insults on Raw in a month. In a month of Raws. That's the difference. We then saw The Miz versus Dean Ambrose. Not fantastic, this match. But a good match. Good story to it. The story that was told, I think, was the best thing. And we have a new Intercontinental Champion on SmackDown. Dean Ambrose wins the title. I'm not opposed to that at all. What I would say is let's just hold our horses, because I can see The Miz claiming that by the letter of the law, it should have been a disqualification when Maurice laid their hands, even not, I was going to call her he, her hands on Dean Ambrose, and 9 times out of 10 that is a disqualification, meaning Miz would have retained. However, I like that rule. I don't think that it should always be an automatic disqualification. I know, I'm talking about something ridiculous here, but I think that would be a good rule to bring in and allow referees to be able to do that. I know it's booked, I know it's scripted, and I know it's storyline, but you know what I mean. Because it is annoying sometimes when it's a disqualification, and it would stop WWE constantly doing these cheap disqualification finishes, which SmackDown doesn't do that much, to be fair. Raw does it more. Again, simple things like that is why SmackDown's better. It doesn't take a genius. Raw's got the talent to equal SmackDown. Can you just imagine SmackDown and Raw were as good as each other? Raw was as good as SmackDown at the moment. The product would be on fire. That's why I think this WrestleMania could be one of the best WrestleManias ever. If Raw gets its act together and is as intense and as must-see as what SmackDown is now. WrestleMania could be the best WrestleMania ever. Not just because the talent on offer and the people that are apparently fighting at the show, Lesnar, but the Goldberg, you know, but just because the shows we would care about. You know, how many we went into last year's WrestleMania and the WrestleMania before where the stories we didn't care about, the shows were crap, and you know, WrestleMania 31, to be fair, produced a fantastic show for the most part, but the story going in was crap. And I didn't really care about many of the matches last year. The main event nobody cared about. The shows were pretty... So this is what I mean. This year we have the potential. But Raw has to get its act together. Otherwise, unfortunately, WrestleMania perhaps won't be able to be one of the best ever. And we should have the best WrestleMania ever now. Because we've got the talent. We should have had it. You know, WrestleMania 17, you know, and I'm not saying that there was... But there's the amount of talent there is now in WWE is better than ever before. So they should be producing the best shows, the best matches. And I think the quality of matches is up there, but if the story's not there, that's the thing now. If the story's there, the matches go from very, very good to world-class and memorable. And the story hasn't been there in past WrestleManias. That was the thing that stopped WrestleMania 31 from being one of the best WrestleManias ever. It was still a very, very good WrestleMania. What stopped it from being one of the best and up there in the same conversation as WrestleMania 17 and stuff like that is the fact that the stories weren't there for the matches. The matches were top quality, were as good or better than WrestleMania 17, but the story, the intrigue, and that wanting to see the matches wasn't there as good as what it was in X17 or WrestleMania 17. And that's the important thing. If you get both of them together, with WWE and the talent they've got now, if you get the story and the match, I mean, it meshes together to make something incredible. And it has the potential to do it this year. Look, you're always going to have a dud match on a show. Don't get me wrong, even with all the talent in the world, some matches just will suck. I mean, we saw it with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler at SummerSlam. It just sucked. It shouldn't. It had all the blueprints to be a great match, but it sucked. That will happen. But that doesn't matter. One bad match is not going to ruin a show. A few bad matches and lack of stories... and lack of interest in the stories, that will ruin a show. But a good way to end the show. Be interested to see where this goes on. We saw some shenanigans. Maurice being sent backstage, slapping Ambrose again. Miz using the title, but Miz made a mistake. Why not hit him with if he'd hit him in the face, that'd have been game over. He didn't. And then Ambrose hitting the Dirty Deeds and becoming an IC title, and I don't mind that at all. 2017 starts with a bang on SmackDown. SmackDown beating Raw. I gave Raw a 4 out of 10. SmackDown, it's getting an 8. 8 out of 10 for SmackDown. Doubly the better show than Raw. And what a great show it was. SmackDown wins the first week of 2017 with a belter of a show. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week for the Raw Preview, the Raw Review, the SmackDown Preview, and the SmackDown Review. Content coming. Quality and consistent. It's going to be 2016 on this channel. Hopefully I'm going to be bringing stuff out to you regularly as I physically can, because the previews have been doing fantastic on views, which is awesome. So yeah, I really thank the support on that. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.